Good morning. It is really early. I'm very tired, but I thought I'm going to talk in this video a little bit about a book that I'm currently reading. This is a recorder that my kids are playing at 7:15 in the morning, so welcome to my life. And yes, that's Taylor Swift right there, and we have eaten chocolate muffins and tried to get our life under control. But what we're going to talk about is this. I want to talk about one specific chapter in here, and this is about the centeredness of your life, like what you should be focused on and what your life should be based on. I think that's super interesting and can bring you forward quite a bit. It helped me a lot to understand. I was thinking that I could go back to some of my life phases, and I saw that I was like, there's one example, work-centered or family-centered and stuff like that. For quite a bit in my life, I was very work-centered. So I could immediately connect with what this book said. But I will go through the chapter with you. I'll explain what this centeredness means, and then we're just explaining a little bit. So I hope that's okay for you. And I would say we dive right in. Making in chapter number 2 is this actually is about alternative centers, and I think this is really important to understand, and to according to everything that I experienced, it's 100% true. So what are these alternative centers? In an optimal world or in an optimal situation, you would have principles in your center, like integrity and just core values which make you do the right thing. But very often we are focused on other things that are not really based on those principles. So, and he brings a couple of alternative centers up that make a lot of sense. And if you think about your friends or your people you know, people at work, you will figure out that you can see some of these alternative centers quite clearly in them. So the first one he's talking about is the spouse-centeredness. So this one I see a lot when people have their first boyfriend or girlfriend. So they had other friends before, they have the first girlfriend, and then there's nothing else important in life anymore. And these are the things that he describes here. Like, you're only focused on what is going on with your spouse. You become super dependent. You only feel self-worth when you are together with this other person. The opinion and the mood or anything like that from the other person plays a really big role for you. So all these kind of things point towards this spouse-centeredness. Then there's a second one that's called family-centeredness, which goes in the same direction, but more like with the family focus. So if everything you do is based on your family, like the value you feel for yourself or how you feel about yourself is completely relying on how your family looks like and how your family is doing. So that's also not optimal. It could be that you are that you only feel happy when your family is doing all the traditions and your family has a certain standing. And let's say if something happens like the aunts are not showing up to the Christmas dinner you have planned, then this is something that would diminish your value in your own eyes. The next one he talks about is money-centeredness. I think this is super easy to understand, right? If you put your personal value on the money you make or the money you have. So obviously this can be destroyed extremely quickly. Like, you know how quickly money can go away. And if your self-worth is connected to money, that is very dangerous. But that is when you're focused on money. And I'm sure you know one or two people who are completely focused on that. Like, they brag with the money they make, they brag with the money they have, they love to show how much money they have, and they only feel worthy if they have that money. The next one, also something that I personally experienced by myself, like I had this as a center, work-centeredness. So when people are defining themselves through work, like when you meet them and the first thing that they're telling you about them is what they are doing for a living, so that would be an indicator that this person might have a work-centeredness. Also, when those people retire, you can see how they fall in the black hole, because that is such a huge part of their identity, and it just breaks away, or they're getting laid off, or somehow they lose their occupation. And then you can see how their whole character, their whole happiness, everything, their whole life was based on this. So everything falls apart. This is an indicator for this work-centered person. Then there's a pleasure-centeredness. This is something that I also have experienced to a certain point, but I always felt that this is wrong. I didn't feel it's wrong with the work-centeredness, but I felt that it's wrong with the pleasure-centeredness. Like when you play video games all day, when you enjoy TV, and when you scroll your social media like hours and hours, this is an indicator for pleasure-centeredness. Like you deserve to have fun and you do these kind of things, and when they go away, you feel sadness. That's the indicator. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's also friend and enemy centeredness. If you are focusing decisions and who you are and how you react around a certain person, either a friend or an enemy. So it can be that you have somebody at work that you really, really hate, and everything that you're doing, all your decisions, it always includes that person and how mean this person is or how stupid this person is. That is a sign for that you are enemy centered. And I think you can imagine what that means for friend centered. It's the same thing, just like positive. So the last thing that's in here, and honestly, I have not experienced that, but I can absolutely imagine that that is a thing, is church-centeredness. If you are doing a lot in your church, everything that you're doing, you're asking yourself, do my church people, my church community, do they approve? Do they like it? If you are doing something that they don't approve, well, you wouldn't do it because you don't feel like this is something you should do. So yeah. And well, there's one more, I think, and it's the self-centeredness. So when everything is just about you, when you are in a meeting and they're not focusing on you, they're focusing on someone else, or they're praising someone else, or somebody else gets a award or something, and then you feel how that hurts you, then this is a good indicator that you are kind of self-centered. So the question is, what would be the right thing to do? And there's a very simple answer. So none of these things really will make you happy. None of these centers are the right things. And actually, here's a good picture that shows you how it should look like. These are all the things that we just talked about. And in the center should be your principles. Like we said at the beginning, your integrity, your honesty, like the basic rules, the basic principles that you want to use in life. And the nice thing is, once you have established these principles, they don't shift anymore. So you don't have this, oh, I'm happy, I'm sad, whatever, based on circumstances changing. Principles are solid. You get a lot more calm, and you know what you're doing. You know that's the way you're going if you have the right principles. So I would say I have transitioned a lot in my life from one center to the other. Obviously, you can also have like mixtures, like a little bit of work-centeredness and a little bit of family-centeredness, whatever. So it doesn't have to be only one. And I went from one to the other. I didn't have them all. I'm sure in my early 20s, I was very spouse-centered. I have been work-centered for quite a long time. I have never been church-centered. I'm sure I have been enemy-centered for a little bit. There were people at work that really took way too much of my awareness, and they took way too much space in the stories I told to my friends. But yeah, I just kept asking myself, like, why does this make me happy? Is this the right thing? So I think in the last 15 years, I did quite some work towards getting my principles right, and it really feels good. I want to finish this video with one story that I wanted to tell you. So in a recent incident where somebody was really not nice to me, I was protecting my boundaries, and it was this person completely lost it and started yelling at me, and I kept sticking to my boundaries. And like a couple of weeks later, this person wanted to talk to me, and I was already expecting that the same thing would happen again. I knew this person wanted to talk about what happened and probably even blame me or whatever, I don't even know. So I went there and I had a little bit of a higher heartbeat for a short moment, but then I remembered I did the right thing. There's nothing to be ashamed of, because this was the right thing to do. If I would be in the same situation, I'll do it again for the same reasons. And that felt so incredibly good. I was sitting there in that little talk that we had. I actually didn't talk a lot. I was just sitting and listening, and it felt like a tornado that went on. But I was sitting there completely calm, watching the tornado go, like the tornado being the other person going crazy and going really wild, face expression. You could see that this person must have a pulse of 200 or so. And I was sitting there in this calmness, knowing I did the right thing. I would do it in the same way, and I'm completely behind my decision. That's fine. I did the right thing. This was such a good feeling, and I wish I had discovered that a little bit sooner, but it is what it is. So yeah, but it feels really nice, and it gives you this, it really feels like you have put a tent on a really big foundation and you finally got bricks instead of a tent. This is how this feels. So all in all, I started this book because I thought it's such a classic, everybody recommends it. But I have the feeling this book will be a much bigger teacher than I thought it would be. So I really recommend it. Although I'm just up to chapter 2, the learnings that I have so far are incredible. I don't know if it makes sense if you read it like in your early 20s, because you should go through some things to find those principles and all these things that are in here. You have to have some examples to understand what he's talking about. But right now, in the midst of my 30s, this book is just on point. So I hope you like this video. If you have read the book and you want to share your view on that, please do so in the comments. I'm super interested what you think, and I hope I see you in the next video. Have a good day. Bye.